Good morning. Here we are again. Happy Friday. I'm going to talk just briefly here today about our exam results for the first exam, and then we'll go talk about Chapter 8 a little bit from there. So in a nutshell, I was pretty happy with the results of the first exam. The average score was almost an 85, which would be a solid B, and actually 35% of the class got an A. So congratulations, that's actually really good. So the Chapter 8 is all about marketing to businesses. So business to business or B2B marketing. It is similar and yet very different from marketing directly to consumers. And so here we have producer, reseller, government, and institutions. And so let's see, I guess I've worked for all of those but government. I haven't ever worked for a government. But I'll give you an example. So for example, my very first career out of graduate school, I worked for a manufacturer that we made barcode readers, okay? So we would be considered a producer. We were taking component parts, putting them together into a product, tooled product, and then selling them to our resellers who then sold them to consumers. Okay, so another example, the J.R. Simplot Company in Idaho. This is a huge agribusiness company. Maybe, I think it was the largest privately owned agribusiness company in the U.S. So a very large company, multi-billion-dollar company. And they did a lot of mining. They did a lot of agriculture, raised cattle, raised potatoes, they raised feed, but it would be for the cattle. They did a lot of things from the ground, from the dirt, if that makes sense. But they also resold products. And so, for example, I spent 5 years with them in their agribusiness group. And their agribusiness, that group was all about developing fertilizer products. And so we did do the mining of phosphorus, and we did, from the ground up, if you want to think of it like that, put the fertilizer products together to resell. But we also were selling directly to farmers, and so we would make our own fertilizer products, but we would also resell things like chemicals and things like that. So you could see some combinations of these. Institutions would be schools, churches, that kind of thing. And government, of course, would be state and federal, local government entities do that. Okay, so first of all, if you're dealing with a business customer, so you are your own business and your customers are other businesses, you're going to be likely to sell much larger quantities of product at a time. There are going to be a lot of repeat purchasing going on. Your relationship that you build with these business clients is going to be hugely, hugely, hugely important. Because they have a lot of money on the line too, and their success is your success depends on their success, and they need you to be a good partner in order for them to be successful. Okay, so when you are trying to sell to a business client, they have a pretty clear expectation of what it is they need. So let's say that you sell camera equipment to contractors who are putting in industrial systems. Okay, so whoever it is that's putting in this industrial system, they have a spec or job specification that they have to meet when they bid a commercial construction job. So they are told by the end user that they need camera equipment that can do this, 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 and this. And so you have to be sure that when you purchase that camera to build into that system for that end user, that the camera that you include meets their spec. And so a lot of what happens with business marketing is that you are making sure you have a product to satisfy the specifications that your customer requires. Okay, it's a little bit different than going out and buying a tube of toothpaste. So the relationship you build with these people is hugely important. You're going to see them hopefully for years and years and years, and you'll get to know them quite well. They will be your friends. And so you may travel to meet with them. You may go on vacations together. You may play golf together. You probably will. you're just going to get to know these people. So be sure that the relationship you build there is solid and one of integrity. That will be important. They're going to want from you a balance of price and quality. Quality is very important, but so is the price, and so they want to get the best quality they can for the best price, best value, in other words. And service is going to be important to them. If they have a question or a need and they can't get a hold of you, they're not going to stay your customer very long. So you need to be providing excellent customer service. Okay, tech support, if that's relevant to the product that you're selling, that'll be important, very important. And actually, that can be a huge category for competitive advantage. When I worked for that barcode reader manufacturer, for example, this was a time when a lot of people bought their barcode equipment from China, and it came in a box, and maybe the instructions were in Chinese, and you're dealing with computer products, and people didn't know how to hook them up. Not all of the competitors in the market were that way, but a lot were. And so the fact that we had a great technical support department that people could call and get somebody to walk them through installing these products, hugely important. In fact, we were rated #1 in the industry for our customer service. And so don't discount that. That's a big, big deal. Okay, as far as buying, the buying process for a business customer, it's much like for the consumer, but there's a group generally involved that's making this decision. So you have the person that's actually going to be using the product that you're selling to them. But then you also have people that are influencing the choice of the product that gets purchased. The actual purchaser of the product is in a specific role, generally called a purchasing agent, purchasing manager, and they'll set up the terms of the contract, net 30 days, that kind of thing, payment terms, that kind of thing. But they're not generally the one that is the decision maker. And so when you are going about talking to potential business clients, it's real important to know who the decision maker is, because you need to be sure that you have their ear and that you can communicate to that person why they should choose your product over another competitor product. Again, the influencers are important too. Those may be engineering type people, people that are working on the specs that you need to be performing to. And so you may be working quite closely with users, influencers, buyers, and deciders. And gatekeepers, finally, these are people that can completely shut you out. Think about that you are oftentimes interfacing with a potential client over the phone. So if all you can get to is that is the decision maker's secretary, you're not going to get very far if that secretary doesn't like you or doesn't want to let you talk to the decision maker. So in that case, the secretary would be considered. All right, so when in the purchase process, again, there's like with the retail or the consumer buying process, you have to first be aware you have a need. And then in this case, you'll have some sort of a development of a spec, whatever specifications that you need to meet for this particular product requirement. Then as a business buyer, you're going to go about searching your potential suppliers, and that will be based somewhat on the products that they offer. You'll choose one, you'll purchase, and then again, just like with the consumer process, you have a post-purchase time there where you are reflecting. Was this a good purchase? Did I make a good choice? Am I getting good service, or did I get good service? Very important. So look too over the list of influences. There's a little chart in the chapter. It talks about environmental versus organizational, interpersonal, individual. Again, the environmental, a lot of these will look familiar, but the bottom line here is that when you're in the middle of a B2B marketing situation, you're dealing with people, a lot of people, and the fact that there's a lot of people involved and an organization that has its own set of objectives and goals and strategies and profitability needs, all of that, it makes for a more complex purchasing situation. So here's some terms and concepts that you should know. In the buying process for businesses, they will sometimes purchase just based on a description of the product. Sometimes they're going to want to see it. Sometimes they're going to want to try it out, sample it. And sometimes you're really going to have a lengthy negotiation where you're talking about delivery terms, pricing terms, conditions for whether or not they're going to pay for the product. I was out at the Bell helicopter plant here a week or so ago, and they were saying that for those helicopters, the customer pays as the product moves down the production line. So by the time the product is actually delivered, it's fully paid for, but a portion of the product is paid for along the way. And so the terms of those payments will be conditional upon Bell Helicopter being able to demonstrate that they've successfully completed that portion of the production process. So that's an example. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about demand. Oh, what? I'm going to skip, well, I'm not going to really talk too much about new task versus straight rebuy versus modified rebuy, except to say that if you're buying the same thing over and over from the same supplier, you've already gone through the process of evaluating their products and you've made your decision. If you're just doing a repeat buy, that's a much simpler purchase than having to meet a new spec, go search for a bunch of new products, potential products, and then choose one based on the best quality and price, potential service. So they get more complicated as you move from a straight rebuy to a new buy and a modified rebuy. All right, so speaking now about demand, I'll need you to know the difference between derived, inelastic, joint, and fluctuating demand. And so just kind of real quickly here, business product demand is generally going to be based on the consumer demand driving those business purchases. That's derived demand. Inelastic demand, this is a case where there's not a lot of price sensitivity to what is being purchased. So if you're Coca-Cola and you're making Coca-Cola, the caramel color that they put into the Coca-Cola, it could probably change a fair amount in price before it's going to impact whether or not you buy that. And so your demand for that one component product that goes into the Coca-Cola product, your demand for that is going to be fairly inelastic. It's not going to depend much on the price of it because compared to the other prices for the other components going into the product, it's probably quite small. All right, so joint demand is when two different products, the demand for two different products, they move together. So demand for car tires may fluctuate with demand for cars. Or had peanut butter and jelly, maybe. Oh golly, those aren't business products, but let's see. Oh, okay. So you could say, like, if you've got a strong housing development market, your demand for roofing products may go along with your demand for concrete, for example, that kind of thing. And then fluctuating demand, this is a case where the demand for business products is going to fluctuate based on the consumer's demand, or even like other things like seasonality, things like that. Well, consumer demand could be based on seasonality too. So as the consumer's demand fluctuates, so will the business demand for the products going ultimately to the consumers. I hope that makes sense. All right, I think we've talked about that last point. Let's talk briefly about the Chapter 8 assignment. I'm asking you this week to think about the sales process from the perspective of a business owner. Okay, so I want you to pretend that you are one of the moms in this company, Revolution Foods, and that you are looking to market your company's product offerings to a new customer. And so let's see here. So I want you to put yourself in their shoes and think about what you think you might run into. So that'll be based somewhat on your answer to number 1. Who are the target customers for Revolution Foods? And then based on who those are, what do you think you're going to run into with them when you try to sell to them? Okay, hopefully that'll be fun. Sounds fun to me. Okay, then as far as MindTap goes, you should have 2 attempts on the Chapter 8 quiz. You'll have as many opportunities to change answers and so forth on the homework, but on the quiz you'll just get 2 attempts, and you